Heard, I'm one of the chairs. I'm also a Lutheran pastor, and I have been doing something like this for a long time. As a parish pastor for 4 decades. Up closer? Okay. As a parish pastor for 4 decades, 3 of those decades I lived in smaller cities and towns. One winter, when oil and construction were a frenzied pace, every house, room, and hotel in town were fully booked. The closest emergency shelter was more than an hour away in another small town. A family, having nowhere to turn, came to me asking for gas so they could drive to that shelter. I paid to fill their gas tank. I knew that shelter often filled up and had to turn people away. I went home dreading hearing the family had not made the night at -30, having to sleep in their cars, risking either freezing or carbon monoxide poisoning. I just prayed that they would be safe. It breaks your heart every time a family shows up and shares their story of having lost their home, and you can offer them nothing. In Edmonton, as throughout Alberta, the numbers tell a painful story of neglect by us and our governments. Every number is a real person suffering. As you've heard, it's getting worse, not better. That's more families on the streets, more mats on the floor, more people in ERs. Today in Edmonton alone, as you've heard, there is 1,000 more unhoused people than in 2021. And more people are at risk of losing their homes. Inflation makes it worse yet. We have numbers for households paying more than 1/3 of their income for housing, sometimes a lot more than 1/3 of their income. It's called experiencing core housing need. We call it being at risk of losing one's home. Today, 1 in 7 of Edmonton's 360,000 households, that's nearly 50,000 households, are at risk of losing their homes. Renters make up more than 33,000 of those at risk. Renters are 4 times more likely than homeowners to be at risk. More than 1 in 4 renter households has to pay more than 1/3 of their income on housing. Surviving without a home is hard. It's harder yet for those with special needs. Nearly 1/3 of our households, over 10,000 of individuals dealing with psychosocial disability, such as addiction or mental health issues, are at risk of losing their homes. More than 1/3 of our renter households, nearly 10,000 of individuals with intellectual disabilities, are at risk. Sorry, managing a clipboard and a mic are not one of my strong suits. Here.
The sun's moving on us, so you're welcome to
Okay, more than 1/3 of our renter households, that's nearly 35,000 of people with physical health and mobility issues, are at risk. This is the largest priority population group living at risk of losing their homes. Nearly 1/2 of senior renter households are at risk. That's nearly 7,000 are at risk of ending up without a home. To help all our 50,000 households at risk, we barely have 15,000 social and affordable housing units. You know, it takes more than 4 walls and a roof to have a home. People require supports tailored to their individual needs. Surviving homelessness increases those needs. Often those needs include training on maintaining housing and how to deal with guests. Without the needed support, chances are greater they will end up without a home again. As Mike has already stated, Edmonton has housed more than 15,000 people through Housing First since 2009. Housing First means we quickly place people into housing, and then we ensure supports like mental health services, employment skills training, addiction treatment, and rent support that help keep them housed. Today, homelessness is a problem all over Alberta. People are suffering, and it's needlessly more expensive to care for people without providing housing for everyone. Back in 2014 already, we knew that it cost us $100,000 a year for each person on the street, and only $35,000 to provide them with housing and tailored supports. That's back in 2014. A significant portion of that is health care. It is hard on your health to live on the street, even worse in the winter. Our ERs are overwhelmed. Today, it is even more expensive. Our health care is stretched far beyond its capacity. Money spent on adequate housing for people now and in future years means savings to our health care system. Throughout Alberta, we need all forms of supportive housing, especially permanent supportive housing, which provides on-site services and staff to help residents maintain their health, their well-being, and permanent housing. Providing money for housing is the right, just, and caring thing to do.
Here, here.